Hello friends and welcome back to the channel where today I'm going to walk you through how I soloed every fight in the brand new Autumn of Agony Gauntlet quest. Now before we jump into the gameplay, I do want to cover a few things, and the first one is that in the top left corner for you will be the current path that I'm working on, and then in the top right corner will be the objectives that my current team is working towards, so you can kind of reference that as needed. Now at the bottom of the screen I'll probably put some alternate attacker options for each fight, and these champs will work for the objectives that I have listed in that top right corner. So if you're doing different objectives than I am, the champs that I have listed there may or may not work for you. Always double check just to be sure. The next thing I want to mention is that I didn't end up needing to do all 6 objectives for this quest. I ended up skipping the hashtag Medal Champs 1. There are 8 total points available from the quest, but if you only need 7 to get to that top milestone in the solo event, absolutely go ahead and skip an objective. There is no need to make it extra difficult on yourself if you don't have to. Next up, I want to mention that I fully understand that my roster might be a little bit more robust than yours if you're watching this. You might not have enough champs to kind of mix and match so many objectives together, and having said that, something you might consider doing is doing a 3rd run through the quest. It will take you a little bit longer, of course, but if you end up using fewer items on 3 runs than you would brute forcing through 2 runs because you don't have, all the champs ranked up for those given objectives, then it's probably going to be worth it. So, something that you should probably consider. And then the last thing I want to mention is that since this video is pretty lengthy, I'm probably not going to talk through the entirety of every fight because a lot of them are just utilizing the same strategy over and over again. So what I think I'm going to plan on doing is talking through why I picked the attacker I'm using. I'll cover my strategy with that attacker, and then kind of let the gameplay run until the next fight starts. I might mention the other attacker options that I have listed, how I would maybe play the fight with them as well. So you can skip around the video as needed. Make sure to check out the timestamps in the description so you can get to a fight that you're having particular trouble with, and I think that's it. So let's go ahead and jump right into the gameplay. Alright, starting off on the right hand side today, you can see my team: Serpent, Deathless Thanos, and Deathless She-Hulk. Thanos is actually there just for looks because Serpent hard carries through 3 of these 4 fights for me. He can actually solo all 4 if you want, but I decided to give She-Hulk some fun as well. So this Jabari Panther I think was the very first Autumn of Agony fight. Couple of nodes here you definitely want to pay attention to. And the most important one is probably this Falter node, where every 15 seconds you're going to get a Falter passive on you. I think unless you're close to her, and then it goes to her. But either way, once you get the true focus buff up from Serpent Special 1, you won't be able to miss for the rest of the fight, and you can kind of just ignore that node. It makes him really, really easy for this part of the fight. Now do be aware that she also has a staggering aura node where the staggers can possibly eat your true focus buff, so you kind of have to time the special one a little bit better than I did. It took me a while to get that true focus buff up, but once you do, as long as you don't get hit, you won't be able to miss for the rest of the fight. Now the other thing you're seeing on her is that gray cleanse timer. I forget what the seconds on it are, but you can reset that timer by using your 4th light attack. So in this fight, I'm only using medium and then light combos, and every time I use a light combo ender, it's going to reset that timer. If she gets a cleanse, it's kind of difficult because then when you use a special, you're placing debuffs on her, and if she cleanses any debuff, she gets a damage reflection passive for a certain amount of time. And that is with her own cleanse or the cleanse from the node. So you definitely don't want to put debuffs on her or use a special attack when she has one of those cleanses. Now she does gain a cleanse from the special 1, as you can see, but if you slow down your ensuing combo ever so slightly, you can outlast it and then fire off your special safely after it's gone. Another thing to concern yourself about is that if she ever gets into the hunt, then your dexterity will start failing. So you need to really keep an eye on that purple and gray icon. And if the color is reversed and she triggers the hunt, you won't be able to dex her at all. You'll have to bait out heavy attacks. So yeah, you basically only use specials when she doesn't have the green cleanse charge. Keep your true focus up with Serpent and you won't be able to miss. And you can actually finish this fight with a full yellow bar thanks to the willpower healing from those staggers. Now a couple of alternate options I have listed here. Thanos you can do similarly to Serpent. You have the miss counter from the panic debuff, which is nice. Purgatory you have to play around the miss, but she definitely has the damage for this. And Deathless King Groot, again, you have to watch that the incinerates don't trigger the cleanse, but otherwise he can do this fight as well. Alright, moving on to the second fight, which is Cassie Lang. I posted a solo of Cassie Lang maybe a week or 2 ago, figuring that I might have to reference it later, and lo and behold, here we go. So very similar strategy to the previous fight with Serpent. The most important thing is to get that true focus up right away, because in this fight, Cassie alternates between like a 100% chance to miss and a 100% chance to evade. But thankfully, the true focus buff counters both of those effects, so you don't really need to worry about it at all. As long as you have that buff and you don't take a hit in the fight, you won't be able to miss, you won't be able to trigger her evade, which is great. Now you also want to try and push her to her special 2 if at all possible, because the special 1, when she uses it, places these like combo detonation debuffs on you, and if you don't remove all of them with your combo, by the time they expire, they do some damage for you, and you want to avoid that. The other thing you want to watch out for is the power sting. So I think it's every 10 or 15 seconds you get a power sting debuff on you, and you can clear it by reaching a multiple of 10 in your combo. So only use your special attack after you've hit that, 50, 60, 70, etc., etc. Now the only other node on this fight that you have to watch out for is a crush node, where if you dash back twice too quickly, you get a crush debuff on you, just like I did there. It doesn't last her very long, but it is kind of annoying if you're trying to push her to her special 2, because all of her attacks will essentially be unblockable. You won't be able to block with that crush debuff on you. So other than that, if you don't have the crush debuff on you, it is safe to parry her. It is safe to block bait heavy attacks if you want. But again, do your best to just push her up to that special 2. The combo detonation is really, really annoying, and I would highly recommend you avoid her special 1 as much as possible. But other than that, it's a pretty straightforward fight. Like, without the threat of miss, without the threat of evade, you're allowed to kind of control the tempo the way that you want it to, and you can fire off your specials when the power stings are down. You can hold them for a special 3. You have a lot of flexibility with that utility that Serpent has from the True Focus buff. So you guys probably have realized by now, if you followed the channel for a while, that when I approach fights like these, I really look for RPG counters first rather than skillful counters. So it's just kind of like the way I like to play. So yeah, I don't think there's anything else I want to say about this fight. Talking about the alternate options here, all of these champs pretty much have to play around the miss or evade one way or the other. Deathless Thanos won't have to play around it because he has that panic debuff, but Void and Null will both have to play around. So you have to like parry to get the proper counter effect on you. You parry, you get the vigilance. You parry again, you get the pursuit. So you kind of have to balance the parries to get the effect that you need with that crush debuff, which is what the fight is kind of designed to do. But again, if you have a Serpent and you can just hard counter the miss and the evade with one special attack, I would recommend that you do so. Alright, moving on to fight number 3, we have our old friend Heimdall. This was a fresh fight just a couple weeks ago. We're going to use Deathless She-Hulk here, but really you can use pretty much anybody for this fight as long as you know how to play around him. So the deal on this fight here is that he has that little unstoppable icon, and that will make him resist all knockdowns from special attacks and heavy attacks. And he's also unstoppable during his heavy, and you're rooted during his heavy as well. So the goal of this fight here is that you need to hit him with like a quick light attack during his heavy attack. That will put that unstoppable node on cooldown, and then from there you can safely launch a special attack. So right there, I hit him with that light. You can see the icon change to a gray field, and now I can go in with a special 2. Now you can see we're not doing any damage here until we knock him down. That's because all the damage we are doing is saved in like a battery, and then when we knock him down, all of that damage is applied to him, I think with like a 200% bonus. And then if he knocks you down, all the damage is reflected back to you, and you're more than likely dead instantly because it is a lot of damage that saves up over time here. So my strategy with She-Hulk here is essentially to use only special 2s. If you want to be extra safe, you can use only special 3s. But the special 2s are going to work much faster. The traumas are going to help him throw his special 1 right away. One of the big problems in this fight is that he likes to throw his heavies like out of nowhere. Sometimes like he's out of range. Sometimes he'll do like a medium dash attack and immediately follow up with a heavy, and you'll be rooted and you will get caught by it. Sometimes he'll do 2 heavies in a row. It's just really, really weird behavior. So the general idea here is that you want to get yourself up to 2 bars of power, and then you want to bait a heavy attack and make sure that that node is on cooldown, and then from there you can punish, or you can go, dash back and parry and go to a special that way. So speaking of dashing back, you'll notice that when we do it twice, very quickly, we get that disorient on you, and really the only thing that disorient is doing is potentially making your parries fail. So if you expect a parry to land, it doesn't work, he immediately goes into a heavy, and then you're rooted. So you really have to pay attention to that. So you can see here, he's just, he will throw those heavies out of nowhere. He will also auto-block during the heavy, like when you're doing a light attack into his heavy attack, he will auto-block it sometimes. And then he'll go like right into another heavy, or he'll just sit there and hold block, and you'll need to like, you know, reset him by hitting his block, which is really weird. Yeah, just a lot of like really strange behaviors in this fight. If he auto blocks your punish from the special 1, you know, plan on hitting him once or twice and then immediately backing off from there. So right there, he auto blocked my light attack, so now he's kind of like broken. So have to sit there, bait out another heavy. Now I've put the node on cooldown again, and I think this knockdown ends up killing him. So just stay patient. As long as you know how to play that fight, you'll be just fine. Alright, we are at the last fight for this path. It is a Northstar boss. It is a brand new fight for this content, and we're going to be using Serpent here. Now, the deal with this fight is that you have power shield, so none of your basic attacks are going to do any damage. And the only time you're allowed to use your special attacks is if you're punishing a special or a heavy, or if you have just completed your own dash attack. The problem here is that every time he uses a special attack, he gains an untouchable passive for a couple seconds. So without a miss counter, punishing his specials is pretty much impossible here. So you really have to do work with Serpent at the start of the fight here to get that true focus buff up. And as you can see, like the first time I used my special 1, he punished me, and getting hit removes that true focus buff, but I was able to get it back here. Once you get that true focus buff up, the fight becomes really easy with Serpent. So all you got to do here is just, you know, it sounds silly, but just don't get hit. Bait out his special 1 and fire off whatever special you want. You can only fire it off again after you punish him. So you can punish his special attack, immediately dash in with a medium, and then fire off whatever special you have available. Getting cornered in this fight is a big problem, so you can see here I'm saving until my special 3, blocking the first blast, and then dexing the other 2. You can do the full dex, but I'm not used to it yet. And then I punished, immediately fire off the special 3 just to create some space for myself. And now we're kind of closer to his wall, which is where I want to be. Now, if you're not used to fighting Northstar, one of the things that you need to be aware of is that he has like a form of power efficiency built into his kit. So his specials will sometimes cost less power, which ends up meaning that you're going to be pushing him over bar of power quite frequently, and definitely more so than you are going to be with a normal champ. The other thing you need to be aware of is bubble shield. So not only do you not want to parry or block too much, but if he throws a special 1 into your block, he's going to go unblockable in the middle of it, regardless of bubble shield, so you definitely need to be on top of the dexes for the special 1. The special 1 you can really just outdistance, but he can sometimes catch you with it, so you really got to pay attention. And then the special 2, I usually just block the whole thing, block the first blast like I said, and then dex out of the second 2 blasts. If you're better at dexing it, obviously, you can manage the full dex here. So this fight without a miss counter is pretty painful, and you'll notice that I only have one other alternate champ listed at the bottom, and that's Deathless She-Hulk, who with her heavy attack can place that fear debuff, which will prevent her from missing. But anybody else that you bring to this fight, you can't really use Deathless Thanos for this because of the slow passive that he puts on you. That's going to prevent your Unstoppable, which is going to prevent your panic debuff. You also can't use Juggernaut for easy intercepts, again because of that slow passive. So the other champions that match these objectives, I don't think any of them have a miss counter, so you pretty much have to play the fight straight up, which is very difficult. A lot of like blind medium intercepts, which is difficult because he constantly has a bar of power. So again, I really recommend if you have Serpent, he is the best option for this set of objectives. Or Deathless She-Hulk, I would put at a close second. Otherwise, you're probably going to be spending some revives just trying to figure out how to best do the fight. And like your first blind intercept that doesn't work, he is going to completely destroy you. So I think that's all I want to say about this fight. So we'll meet back up in like a minute and a half or so for path number 2. Alright, switching over to the left side path here, my team for this side is going to be Ironheart and Attuma and Chee'ilth, and we have 2 objectives here, no Saga champs on the team, and only Tech, Mutant, and Skilled champs. So I am going to put some Metal champs in my alternates here, just in case you do need to do that 6th objective here. Now for Tigra, you can really use anybody for this fight, as long as you know how to bait and punish her special 1. Because you are rooted during it. The only thing you want to avoid in this fight is any champion who relies on buffs. So somebody like Storm is not going to work. I tried her, and she's also immune to all forms of damage over time. So anybody who relies on damage over time effects for most of their damage is not going to work here either. So Attuma, he's got a little bit of willpower built in at pretty much at all times because of his concussion debuffs, and he can hit pretty hard once you build up those concussions and your hydration here. And with the rooted special 1, it provides really easy opportunities for you to heavy attack into her and convert some of that hydration into concussions here. So this isn't the nicest looking fight. It's pretty sloppy at times, but I really just needed cannon fodder more or less, because I knew that whoever I used on this fight I wasn't going to need for the rest of the path. So all this person had to do, all this champion had to do, was get through this fight without dying. And since it's the first fight in the path, obviously you can restart as many times as you want until you get the solo, which I would recommend you doing unless you're having like a super hard time with it. This was actually a pretty good opportunity for me to kind of reintroduce myself to playing Attuma, because I don't really get to play him that much. He's a champion that I really do like, but I don't really find many opportunities to use him. I find keeping a bunch of concussions active long enough to get to that big special 2 is pretty difficult for me to do with him. It's kind of like Crossbones, but not as not as difficult, I guess. I don't know how else to describe it. So I can see at some point I'll make the decision to switch from the special 1 over to the special 2. I also think I should be keeping more stacks of hydration, because I think that's what controls your attack rating here. So you can see on the way to the special 2, I lost all of my concussions, and now we have only 1 cruelty passive, 2 cruelty passives, and that special 2 did essentially nothing here. But you can kind of see the rotation I'm doing. Only bait the special 1 here. You can full dex the special 2 while rooted. It is very difficult, and I would recommend not trying it if you're not used to it. So a couple other things about this fight. You can see that she's getting an unblockable buff every 12 seconds. If you're out of range, you will get that unblockable buff, but she's pretty special happy in this fight, so I had not a lot of problems avoiding the unblockable here. The hardest part about this fight for me was anticipating her special 1, because sometimes she'll do a couple basic attacks and then throw the special attack. Sometimes she'll throw it after you finished your initial dex while you're baiting it out. It's really difficult to predict, and if she hits you with it, it's going to hurt quite a bit. Now the reason you don't really want a buff champ obviously is because of the ruptures. Those will hurt quite a bit, so no buff champs. The neutralize aura is one of the nodes that she has, and if you stay too close to her, you get those neutralizes on you. The other thing is that you can't use a champion who is immune to ruptures or neutralize, because if you do that, you're going to lose 30% of your health every time that immunity triggers. So Spider-Punk is not going to work here. Photon's not going to work here either. Now, a couple of alternates I have listed here for this fight, and again, you can pretty much use anybody. All the champs I have listed below are hashtag metal, so again, if you need to do that objective, you can with any of these champs. So Guardian is really good, a lot of good block proficiency if you happen to mess up or take a bunch of blocked hits. Stark Enhanced Spider-Man can probably get this fight down very, very quickly because he can just, with the rooted dexes of her special 1, he can build up his, whatever those charges that he gets are called, really, really quickly. And he'll be able to stay pretty much maxed out, I think, for the whole fight. I'm sure somebody's going to post a really fast Spider-Man Stark Enhanced solo. And then Guillotine 299, probably not my first or even my second or third option for this fight, but again, as long as you can avoid getting hit, her damage is going to ramp up very, very quickly, and you should be able to get this fight down without too many issues. And again, it is the first fight in the path, so if you feel like it's not going well or you've lost too much health, just quit and restart until you get either a solo or a really solid run that you're pleased with here. You can also just use Onslaught for this fight as well. She is immune to the damage over time, but he is just so powerful regardless. Doesn't rely on buffs either, so he won't get a lot of the ruptures on him. Just a really, really good champ, of course, overall. So, if you don't have somebody that you particularly like for this, or you don't need a metal champ, Onslaught will do just fine. It'll be a little bit slower without access to his Neuros and his degen, but it should work. Alright, next up we have Prowler. We're going to be using Ironheart. Make sure if you're using Ironheart to activate Rupture mode, because he is immune to Incinerates here. Now, Ironheart is a fantastic option, maybe the best option for this fight with this objective, because she so easily counters miss, and she can easily parry him once tracking is up here. So she has a lot of control in this fight. Once tracking is up, again, she can safely punish his specials and won't trigger the falter, or won't be able to miss when the falter is active, rather. So then that allows you to kind of pay attention to the other nodes in this fight, which are all based around power draining. So you can see that you have Plagued Mind on you. There's a timer there on my side of the screen. So every 30 seconds your power is going to be completely drained. And then I think for every like 5% of your power that's drained at any time, you lose like 1% of your health. And that also counts for when you use a special attack, because remember, Prowler power drains you for what's left of your power after every special attack. So you are going to be taking a lot of like unavoidable damage in this fight. The other thing you have to do is you have to alternate your specials, which you'll see me doing here. And you'll notice that he has like an indestructible timer on him. So every like 30 seconds or so, he's going to gain a single indestructible charge. But if you accidentally use the same special twice in a row, he's going to gain another one immediately. And using a special attack, the correct special attack, is going to remove that indestructible charge. So there's not really a way to prevent it. So you just kind of have to accept that there will be short periods of time during this fight where he will be indestructible, but it will only last until your next special attack. Now, the tricky part with managing the alternating special attacks is when you combine that with Plagued Mind, because getting up to your special 2 only to have your power drained halfway is pretty painful, and it's going to do a lot of damage. So one thing you can do, which you'll see me do periodically in this fight, is if you charge your heavy attack, it will remove your power, and that is an important distinction from draining your power. The power is just gone without triggering the damage back. And I think if you drain more than like a bar of power, you get a Fury passive here. But the power removal on the heavy attack is really just designed to save you some of that unavoidable damage. So I guess it's not unavoidable after all. And then ideally you want to start building to that special 2, as soon as the power drain triggers from the node, and then you have 30 seconds to get up to a special 2, which should be plenty of time, especially with Ironheart, because she can so easily get openings in this fight. She doesn't have to skip punishing a special attack and then bait out a heavy attack. She just works like just absolute utility queen, and you'll see that come into play later on the Northstar fight. She just handles these fights so easily. It's amazing how people continue to sleep on her, but I digress. Coming on to the end of the fight here, and Ironheart just absolutely crushing this. I think I do end up healing her up for the Northstar fight. I wasn't really sure how the Northstar fight was going to go, so I did end up healing her back to full. And you'll see that was probably a waste of potions, but I wanted to be safe and not blow it on the last fight of the path. So there we go, down goes Prowler. Alright, back at Heimdall, we're going to be using Chee'ilth, who is one of the hardest counters to this fight that there is right now. So Chee'ilth's Grit passive that she gets on her special 1 actually fully counters the brace node, or whatever it's called, that prevents him from being knocked down by like heavies and special attacks. So what you're going to see me do here is basically just rely heavily on that special 1, and whenever he's not auto blocking me, you can just like sidestep into the special 1, because the Grit passive activates immediately, and that will prevent him from resisting your special 1. And then you'll be able also to safely counter his heavy attack as well. You'll still be rooted, but you can interrupt him, and it actually will interrupt him. I think once or twice in this fight, I finished off his heavy attack with my own heavy attack, which will pause all of the bleeds on him and add 3 more. So if you are a pretty skilled Chee'ilth player, you can do stuff like that. Or you can just play it much safer. Every time he uses a special 1, you can safely sidestep into a special one of your own. This fight is actually really, really quick. It's only like 2 minutes, and I don't have deep wounds on either. Right there you can see he auto-blocked like 2 or 3 of my snap light attacks in a row. And again, I talked about his AI earlier. He just does like goofy stuff like that. So he has, you know, instantaneous reaction time. You just got to be ready for him to do like the weirdest stuff. And right there, he's doing it again. So just you got to be ready for those rooted heavies, because again, if you get hit with one and knocked down, you're probably going to die right away. So right here, he accidentally pushed me to 2 bars of power. So I just, you know, kind of fire that off. The Tranquilize debuff is not really doing anything for you in this fight because there's no miss to counter, so we go right into the special 1, and as long as you keep good uptime of that grit passive up, the fight is a lot easier, I would say. And again, she's probably like the hardest counter to this fight in the game, because that grit is just so good for countering all the stuff that he has going on. Be careful when you're baiting specials, because again, he likes to do stuff like that where he dashes in with a medium and then immediately goes into a heavy, and you are rooted, you know, right away. So if he catches you with that root, there's a good chance that he can also catch you with the heavy attack. So you just got to be prepared. Expect him always to throw a heavy is really, you know, the only thing I can say about this. Talking about alternate options for this fight for just a second here, and you can really use anybody for this fight, so I just kind of listed a couple of good champs in this pool based on my objectives. So Colossus should work fine here. You should be able to parry and get a big special 2 off once you have that brace node on cooldown. Crossbones should be able to get easy heavy counters from the special 1. And then Howard the Duck, again, should be able to easily heavy counter. And Howard the Duck's damage ramps up really quickly if you get a lot of those Fury buffs. So he can make short work of this in just a few knockdowns here. I think that's it, and let's move on to the final fight, which is Mr. Northstar again. We'll be using Ironheart for this fight. And again, you saw that I healed her up for this, thinking it would be a little bit more difficult than it actually was. So Ironheart, so good for this fight. Maybe the best option overall, because she is able to turn off the bubble shield node. So right there, once you have tracking up, he will no longer trigger those bubble shield charges from hitting in your block. And in addition, when tracking is up, she has the ability to block unblockable specials from Mutant Champ. So even if he were to launch a special attack into your block, it would not be unblockable. And she has that nice Bulwark passive from her signature ability, so her block proficiency is increased, I think, by like 25% flat. So she has a lot of really strong survivability in this fight in particular. And of course, with 5 or more debuffs and that tracking passive up, you get a miss counter, so you can safely punish all of his special attacks, which is really nice. So her damage over time effects are putting in a lot of good work in this fight. So remember, he has power shield, but the damage over time effects are still going to work. So while we're kind of baiting out specials, those are, you know, ticking him down, and he doesn't really have a big health pool to begin with. And I think at some point here, once maybe twice, I do go for like a you know, like a bigger special 2, but I am kind of mindful in this fight, you know, where I need the miss counter probably above all else, that I cannot afford my debuffs to fall off. So, you know, getting up to the special 2 might make the fight like a little bit faster, but you cannot risk losing those debuffs. And I know she can like easily get them back, so it's not like if you lose your tracking, the fight is over. But, you know, again, try not to make the fight extra difficult on yourself, and just keep 5 or more up on him at all times. And again, you have to use your specials after a dash attack, so immediately after punishing, fire off that special. That took a few tries to get used to, because like I'm used to doing like a full combo into a special attack, and I dash with my left thumb. So like hitting the dash swipe and then immediately trying to like reach quickly for the special button was a little tricky at first for me. Talking about the alternate options I have listed here briefly, again, if you need that hashtag metal objective, Omega Sentinel is probably your best other option for this fight other than Ironheart. She has the tracking debuff available via her pre-fight, and as long as you don't heavy to switch it, you should have near permanent uptime of tracking, which is really nice. So she again can easily counter miss. Onslaught cannot miss while a Neuroshock is on the opponent, so again, you can have a pretty good uptime of a miss counter in this fight with him. And then Sam Wilson also cannot miss when locked on, so you know, probably not everybody's go-to option for this fight, but he can definitely put in some work on this, and probably the Prowler fight too, as a matter of fact here. So the fight is wrapping up here. I want to thank you for watching this. I hope it was helpful to you. Please remember to hit like for me and subscribe if you haven't already. I've got some champion guides coming up that you're not going to want to miss. Make sure to share this video with your friends, with your alliance mates, anybody who might be struggling with this content. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you again next time.